Hi and welcome to FireTech Talk. I'm your host Noah. Today we're here with Kyle Coleman from Reliable Fire and Security to discuss fire extinguisher training. Kyle, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get right into it. What are the benefits of FEDs offering fire extinguisher training as a service to their clients?
Well, there's a lot of benefits both on the customer side and then the company side itself. So it'll allow them to differentiate them from their competitors. It'll generate a new revenue stream, and it'll also be a new way to market themselves in the industry. In terms of for their customers, it's going to offer another service that will allow them to understand how to use extinguishers, what to do in situations where they're faced with fires, and just give them a general basic knowledge of how to use a fire extinguisher.
Absolutely. How does this create more value for those customers?
My personal opinion is that knowledge is power. So the more knowledge they have, the more practice they have, the more equipped and more comfortable they're going to be if they're ever faced with a situation where there is a fire or some kind of hazard like that.
There's a misconception that fire extinguisher training takes a long time. How can FEDs train their customers on how to use a fire extinguisher efficiently and effectively?
So my rule of thumb with fire extinguisher training classes is to keep them within 45 minutes, break it up into two sections. The first section will be an oral talking portion where you'll cover the basics of what they need to know in terms of how to use a fire extinguisher, different types of fire extinguishers, and a demonstration of how to use it on a fire. The second portion will be the live hands-on training. The reason I try to keep all the training courses within 45 minutes is because if you go longer than that, you're going to lose the attention of whoever you're training. So you want to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. You don't really need to get to a granular level. You just want to give them an overview of what they need to know to stay safe and feel comfortable in the workplace.
Absolutely. And I think just having that training really helps give a certain level of comfort where you're not in the heat of the moment trying to figure out how to use this thing. You have confidence going into it if the situation arises. So does OSHA actually require training for people that are intended to use these extinguishers?
OSHA does require training. There's two parts to that requirement. The first part is for people who are not intended to use the extinguishers, so just general employees. They have to have some sort of training on the extinguishers, and that could be anything from a PowerPoint, an oral presentation, a test or a quiz or something like that. The second part to that OSHA requirement is anyone who is intended to use the extinguishers has to have a live hands-on portion to the training. So that would be any people that are involved in like an emergency response team or fire brigade or anything along those lines.
So what about classroom training versus hands-on? Can you kind of talk about the difference between the two?
Yeah, so classroom training would be, like I kind of mentioned earlier, something along the lines of a PowerPoint or an oral presentation and then maybe a quiz or something after that. Hands-on training would involve that first portion, but then also a live training portion where each participant gets to use an actual extinguisher on a live fire. I prefer the live training just because, again, the more real the training is, the more comfortable the participant is going to be with the extinguisher and the more calm they'll be if they're ever faced with a live fire or a situation where there is a hazard like that.
Okay, so can you kind of talk about the dynamics of fire safety and the various aspects that surround it?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the aspects that would go, or the dynamics that would go into the training would include covering the 5 classifications of fire. So A, B, C, D, and K. And again, just a brief description of each. Another aspect would be the fire tetrahedron, which just basically is showing that a mixture of oxygen, fuel, heat, and a chain or a chemical reaction between those 3 is going to cause the fire.
So what about fire training simulators, VR, stuff like that? You know, do you think those are good? Is that a useful thing?
I do. So I think there's certain scenarios or situations where it's beneficial. Again, I always prefer to do the live hands-on training if that's possible. But some customers that I have where we have to kind of go to that simulator training are high rises downtown in the city or buildings that don't have space outdoors to do the live training, or if weather permitting. So during the winter months, if somebody needs to have a training done, obviously I'm in Chicago, so winter weather doesn't work well with outdoor training, then the simulator training is a great alternative to use during those winter months or any situation like that.
What about resources such as FEMA? Do they have training aids that can be used for training and fire extinguisher use?
Yes, there's a lot of training aids out there, both through FEMA or NAFED or other associations within the industry that have videos on YouTube, or if you even go to their website, they have different links and resources that you can tap into when you're trying to build your program and figure out what you need to include and what you can leave out.
Absolutely. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe for more FireTech Talk videos just like this one. We'll see you next time.